Okay, we'll kick it off. Okay, so welcome aboard, everybody. All 11, 10. Ooh, somebody just left. I'm Colin Murphy. I'm lead tutor for blended learners in Portobello. Emma will introduce herself in a second. She's leads the sports psych side of things. This year, I'm going to be delivering, I think, some anatomy modules, or an anatomy module for first years, some research modules for first and second years, and some sports psych modules for second years. My own background is in physical therapy and sports psychology. I'm also a practicing tennis coach. So just off court about an hour ago on a lovely sunny afternoon. That was very, very enjoyable. So we're going to work our way through the course content, I think, with you this evening. As Joe said there, jump in with any queries or questions as they arise in the chat. We'll try and take them as they come. So I'm going to hand over to Emma to introduce herself, and then we might put up a slide presentation and run through that for you.
Thanks very much, Colin. Yeah, so as Colin said, I'm the program lead on the sports psychology modules, the performance analysis modules, and the research ones. So my background is obviously in sports psychology and performance analysis, and my main research areas are decision making, anticipatory skills, situational awareness, things like that. So I really do encourage you to even type some questions in. If you've got any, take your time typing them in. Obviously, you can pop on your mic or your camera, but if you're not comfortable, it's such a good opportunity to get any questions you might have about particular modules or particular degrees, that you've two lecturers now that are always on different courses to answer your questions.
And I'm the course advisor, so any questions about admissions or next steps, feel free to just ask any questions in the chat or again at the end. I've put my email address in there, so if you've got any questions after this evening, I can send you a link to book an interview with myself, and that'll get the ball rolling for your next kind of steps in the application process. And I'll help you with the kind of entry and the registration process if you are interested in any of the courses with us.
Perfect. Thanks, Joe. I'm going to load up a presentation here now. Hopefully I can do that without any particular difficulties or challenges. Sorry, just give me 1 sec. Slight teething problem here. So just checking, is that visible? Perhaps somebody would give me a yes or a no.
Yeah, Colin, you're away there.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, so running through the sports department offerings and so on. So there's a number of different offerings here, and there's a more recent one that actually isn't on this presentation we can sort of take as a sidebar if somebody has a particular query in relation to that. But there's BScs in sports therapy, BA in physical education, BSc sports science and performance analysis, BSc sports psychology, coaching, and PE. Now, given, I suppose, the nature of those, it's likely, not likely, it is the case that there's crossovers. So some modules bridge across a number of different courses. So you'll sometimes have in class with people who are studying a different course, but they have common modules. So because they're all obviously in the sports field. Joe very kindly there popped up a poll at the very beginning, which is on the right-hand side of your screen, just to try and get a sense for the people on the call, which is your particular area of interest. Is it one course above the other that you're interested in? The other thing we might be interested in as we go through is this idea of whether you're intending, or whether your initial thoughts are whether you're going to engage with the course on a full-time basis as a full-time student, which really means kind of during the weekday stuff, or as a blended learner, which is delivered at the weekends. So that's interesting for us in terms of the where the interest is coming from. So that's the second one there, just which method of study is the one that you're, I suppose, drawn to, or the one you're thinking of. And there's challenges to both, for sure. And then other things to think about in terms of might prompt a question in your head for you is to what extent, where do you see yourself going with the course? What's your motivation for taking the courses on? And where do you see yourself going after that? Is it a career-driven thing? Is it further study? And so on. I'll take you through this first one, BSc Sports Therapy, and just try and give you a flavour for what's involved. So I suppose you can kind of chop this up in different ways. Obviously, it's chopped up here across the different years, But you'll see on the bottom of that, year 1, year 2, year 3, there's research methods in year 1, year 2, leading to a research dissertation in year 3. So they are very much building blocks. If you want to take the first one as being kind of introductory in year 1, developing your understanding of what research is, what it entails, what skills you need to acquire, and so on. And that builds in year 2 into a research proposal where you try and develop a particular area of interest that you would like to explore, a particular research topic that you would like to work on. And then that's built further then in third year into an actual research dissertation. So then the other ones are more, I suppose, the practical elements of the sports therapy course. So sports therapy itself, in terms of hands-on work, what's involved with that, how it relates to an underlying understanding of how the body responds to training and how it affects the physiology of the body. And then that's underpinned, of course, by an important module on anatomy and biomechanics. So how does the body, how is it made up? How does it move? And a good understanding of that, a good grounding in that is obviously vitally important in this area. In year 2, then that builds into specific sports rehabilitation, looking at a psychology component there, which could, it can look at a whole range of areas in terms of sports therapy, but one obvious kind of area that might come in here would be maybe the psychology of sports injury or something like that. In second year, then you expand on your physiology, going into that better in bigger depth, in greater depth. And then some advanced therapy techniques, so hands-on techniques in terms of injury assessment and so on and so forth. Year 3, then, again, you're building up all the time, looking at some biomedical issues that you need to be aware of as a therapist. There's a work placement module as well, looking at electrotherapy as well, and then further advanced therapy. So I suppose the distinction probably between year 2 and year 3 would be to do with mainly the area of the body that you would be dealing with. So the more advanced stuff in year 3 is looking at sort of neck and spine type issues, which obviously you need to have developed your skills sufficiently before you go down that route, I suppose. So I'm happy to let me see. So where would you go with this? What might you do with this? There are some routes, plenty of routes through the UK, because obviously we're linked in with London Metropolitan in this regard, in relation to pursuing a master's and being accredited then as a physiotherapist. As it says there on the slide, getting ultimately applying for chartered status here if that was a route you wanted to go. But you also be accredited in the UK by the Society of Sports Therapists once you come off the initial BSc. So that opens up some career opportunities, opens up the opportunity to acquire insurance to operate in those fields. And then, as I said, there are, in addition to that, some further study opportunities that people might wish to pursue.
Colin, could you just check if the slides have moved on, just to see the degree overview? No, you're absolutely fine.
Where are you on now? Because they're scrolling on my screen, but obviously not on yours, is it?
Yeah, I think that might just be the issue.
Oh, that's a bit odd. Okay, let me see.
I'll let you know whenever it changes.
Yeah, because I've been scrolling through them as I'm talking, but obviously nothing's been happening for you.
Maybe click there. Yeah.
Now I've come out of presentation mode, so this might help. Are you getting?
Yeah, I can see all that.
Each slide now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was sort of effectively rabbiting on there without any slide to back up what I was saying.
No, you're describing it perfectly. Don't worry.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much, Joe. I can vote with confidence. Okay, I won't go through all the detail again. I'll skip to these reasonably quickly now that you can actually see them. So the different courses available, the different formats you might like to study in, what you might plan to do after it. And then the more detail into it was the breakdown, if you like, of how this sports therapy BSc hangs together and how it develops through the different years. So apologies, I didn't realize you couldn't see that while I was talking about it. And then the final slide that I jumped into there was just some opportunities, if you like, off the back of that BSc where you might go with it once you've completed it. So if they're visible now, I might hand you over to Emma. Emma, if you like, I can scroll the slides forward for you, or you can upload the presentation separately. I can stop sharing, you can share. Which is better for you?
I think if you just keep popping them on,
okay.
Colin, that would be, yeah.
Okay, I can do that then.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine with me. So this is where we're going next. Is that okay for you to take that one on?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
yeah. So as Colin was just saying, a brief run through of what the degree entails for sports therapy there. So I'd ideally try and do the same for the analysis. So I suppose what the unique thing about the degree in sports science and performance analysis is we offer is there's different aspects to performance analysis. So there's the actual performance of it in terms of passes, touches, turnovers, and any sort of invasion-based sport, which would be kind of known as the performance side of it. And then there's physiological performance analysis, which would be heart rate variability, fatigue index, sprint indexes, and I suppose linking back into what Colin's just spoken about. And the unique thing here is we take the anatomy, the physio, the biomechanics side of performance analysis, but we also take that along with the performance indicators that are our performance analysis. So ideally what you want by the end of the 3 years is to walk in and be able to be the analyst, not just the GPS guy or girl or the Kitman Labs type of woman or man, because they're very different. So what the course tries to do and what the way we've tried to organize it is that we're delivering and we're encompassing all aspects of performance analysis. So you'll see from your couple of modules, we look at the anatomy and the biomechanics, okay, physiology and those training principles. So again, you're looking at training overload, fatigue indexes. So it's not just getting an Excel sheet back up, it's getting an Excel sheet back up from, say, different softwares and saying, okay, well, Paul, athlete A, had a GPS load of 286 on Sunday, but his normal is 294. So it may flag that he's fatigued, but he's not actually fatigued, and he can enter into full training. This will be professional sports, more so, but definitely those sub-elite sports are definitely going this way in terms of injury management and prevention. So you'll know, okay, Paul, athlete A, he can actually engage in full training. There may be another athlete who's flagged very high, and he may have to reduce his or her training load based on what comes up on that. So that's what you get in terms of those training principles, the physiology, the biomechanics, like whose running gait is incorrect, can that be improved? Is the sprint technique correct? Can that be improved to make a faster athlete to get more explosive effort from him or her? And then you have obviously the foundations of psychology, but people think that's not really anything got to do with performance analysis, but in terms of perceptual cognitive skills, which are your ability to react, your decision making, the time in which it takes it to react. Are you aware of a pass that may be available to you in the likes of an invasion-based sport? That's the psychology side of things that are involved in the performance analysis degree. And then there is the research. And I know Colin has touched on it earlier, so I won't go into too much detail. But again, it brings you from being able to read papers other researchers have published and think, okay, do you know what? That's maybe not a valid matrix anymore, how we look at speed or how we look at fatigue. And you're able to pick up papers and kind of muddle your way through them throughout the 3 years, and then in turn write your own version of what would be a publishable paper in a topic you're really interested in, whether that be more the cognitive side of performance analysis like reaction time, or the performance indicators like turnovers, counterattacks, things like that, or the biomechanical, physiological side of things. So are we training young academy athletes to actually burn out, to actually be extremely, predisposed to hamstring injuries, glute injuries, and so on. And again, you'll see that carries nicely over into your second and third year. So again, if you always think of your first year of your foundation, your second year is more building blocks, and your third year as a higher building block to get you, I suppose, employment ready. So you've got your applied principles of strength and conditioning, again, feeding back into load, training load, strength, what's needed for sprint, what's needed for stamina, those sort of things. Biomechanics, again, the psychological factors of individual and teams. Again, more along the cognition side of things, reaction time, decision making, things like that. And then in year 3, you have an advanced analysis for sport. And again, that's allowing you to analyze teams and athletes in terms of their biomechanics. So I suppose it does sound slightly ruthless, but nowadays, especially professional sports, the Premier League would be a prime example. A lot of their scouting is now done through apps that are created by Matrix that you would be able to develop at the end of this course to say, okay, is the speed where we want it? Is the running gait where we want it? Is the jump technique where we want it? So that's your advanced analysis of biomechanics. You have your work placement, which is, I think, a module across all degrees everybody enjoys the most, because you think, all right, I can go and get my hands dirty now and I can go and get a feel for what my career will actually look like. And I suppose one of the benefits of Portobello is you're actually being lectured by people who are out there working. So Colin just spoke about being heavily involved in tennis and being, professional tennis coach. The therapy crew are always out with different teams. I'm out with teams in terms of psychology and analysis. So again, it's different routes into different teams, into different sports. And you have someone who's not just going to tell you the theory, but they're also going to tell you, okay, look, the book might say this, but in a more practical setting, you might be better off doing this from our years of experience. And again, there's sports psychology and the elite athlete in third year as well. And again, if it's just that holistic view of performance from both the team and the athlete perspective. Okay, I think that's also performance. Thanks, Colin, for I'm
trying to anticipate.
It's okay, it's all right. I'm slowly judging your anticipatory skills, Colin. So I kind of have it covered, but the technology has changed, and it's all about sort of, how can we objectively look at sport? So I suppose previously we've subjectively looked at sports and athleticism. We've said, okay, she looks like a good runner, or he looks like a good rugby player. But what the way we're trying to move in sports now, and in particular the way sports research is trying to move, is me saying somebody might look fast or somebody might look, athletic or talented in a sport is very subjective. It's just my opinion. So what we try to look for now is objective markers to performance. And anyone that plays sport will know the benefits of having an objective marker, not just somebody's opinion on whether you were fast or whether you were good. So again, it's speed gate technology, it's speed technology, it's reaction time technology. And again, you've got data there that enables you to say, okay, maybe he or she is best placed in this position due to their ability to scan the environment in less than 3.5 milliseconds. Versus the person you have in there, that's maybe 8.5 milliseconds to scan the area. So it really is feeding into this huge requirement we now have to have the technology and to have the analysis to know, A, what are the right things to do when it comes to athletes and teams, and B, are we doing them?
Are you happy there, Emma, with that?
Yeah, I am. Thanks, Colin. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm flying a bit blind here because while this is on my screen, I can't see anything else. So it's a little bit disconcerting.
No.
So next one here, just a question for Joe here before I look at this one. Is Joe, is this is the new course, I believe, BA Physical Education?
Yes, it is indeed.
Okay, so
yeah.
I what I suppose I'm going to say is this is sort of fresh out of the box. So I don't have a lot of detail. I don't plan to waste people's time by reading the slide, because I don't have a lot of the detail that's underpinning those individual modules. So my suggestion would be that if this is the particular course of interest to somebody who's on the call this evening, to maybe drop a line separately to Joe, and we'll get someone to talk to you offline about this in more detail.
I can jump in on a few of these modules.
Okay,
cross over into just if somebody is interested, I can give you the bare bones of a few of them.
Sure, if you want to choose there.
Yeah, so the phys ed really, again, is physical education. It is directed at those who are, I suppose, their career aims are for PE teaching. Now, I'm not going to be able to talk you through, I suppose, what you'll need, I suppose, because it is different and there's, I suppose, requirements in the Teaching Council of Ireland. Joe would be the best one for that. Unfortunately, I wouldn't know anything. But in terms of a couple of the modules, they would look slightly familiar to what we run on psych. You'd actually be in with a few of the psych students for some of these. So skill acquisition, the last one on the left-hand side in year one, it kind of does what it says on the tin in terms of what we really want you to know is how do, I suppose, along the lifespan of that secondary school child, or, really from infancy up, how do they develop the ability to catch a ball, to pick up a ball, to hit a tennis racket, so on and so forth. It's very much based on motor skill development, motor skill behavior, and the best way to actually help someone develop a skill. So you can take them from a very early age in terms of their ability to perform certain tasks and skills, even jump ladders and things like that. It also talks you through maybe some of the things you'll deal with in school in terms of if there's elements of dyspraxia there. dyslexia there, how to, I suppose, help them accommodate for some of the motor skills that may be harder to attain for them. There's a small bit, a very small bit, people tend to get a bit turned off here, but it's a very small bit on the brain and what parts of the brain you're trying to utilize to help the child ascertain the skill as best they possibly can. Pedagogy is, I suppose, a fancy term they've put on, okay, how do we do physical education? How do we use the knowledge we have from teaching and use the knowledge we have from coaching and then use the likes that we have from skill acquisition, skill retention, and encompass that into pedagogy, which is basically making you the best PE teacher you can be. Contemporary issues would deal with stuff like some of the issues around racism that are unfortunately still present in sport, some of the religious differences you'll have to accommodate and consider as a phys ed teacher in a large school, if that was something you wanted to go on to. Gender differences, you'll cover long-term athletic development in terms of what a 12 to 13-year-old, what would be the markers for physical education and lifelong engagement in exercise versus a 16-year-old. So it's train to train, train to learn, train to compete, and the best times in a young adult's life when to bring a competitive side of sport into it, which is becoming massive in research now, because if we bring too much competitiveness too soon, they burn out. And if we don't bring enough competitive in too late, they don't learn that, not everybody gets a medal and not everybody gets to lift a trophy. So it's a nice balance. Again, you'll see it kind of follow its way through back into second and third year. Skill acquisition again, which is a much higher level in terms of skill retention and skill transfer. So how do you get, I suppose, from learning rugby to being a professional rugby player, and how that level of skill acquisition has to increase for the athlete, for the team. Teacher education does what it says on the tin there a little bit too. It's very much that, you were taught to teach. That is that module. Then phys ed, it's kind of encompassing biomechanics, physiological demand, what you might do if you had maybe diabetes involved or diabetic students, like some of the more, I suppose, medical issues you may have to deal with. Research design, because no matter what course you go on, you will end up with a lovely thesis in your hand at the end of the 3 years. Your Make It Happen project plan then is like a study of how you would sort of, make adjustments to, I suppose, phys ed, how we treat physical education in the country. Your applied pedagogy, again, is just making the best PE teacher out of you. Teacher education and your research project. Again, there's some more contemporary issues, because the one in first year would be how you deal with smaller, maybe first year, smaller children. And then the contemporary issues, level 3, again, is more of the more adult natures and those type of things. Female dropout rates at 16, the issues with that, why we reckon that's happening, things like that. So that's as much as I can give, unfortunately. But like I said, any of those requirements and lead on into the teaching council, I wouldn't be able to answer, but that's a very brief overview of what some of your modules will look like.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. So yeah, in terms of going on to be a fully qualified secondary school teacher in Ireland, you would need to go on. So after the 3-year course with us here, you would need to then go on and complete a postmasters in education in PE afterwards. And we do have a lot of students that would then go on to University of Limerick, and that's where it's currently offered. And we would have a good success rate of students going on and completing that and then becoming fully qualified PE teachers. So that is obviously a really successful route. It's one of our most popular courses. We actually do have a dedicated PE evening tomorrow night, so you can ask as many PE teaching related questions tomorrow evening. I've just popped the wee link into the chat box where you can join the link and register for tomorrow evening. It's on at, let me just double check, it's on at 7 until 8 p.m. tomorrow evening, and we'd be delighted to see some of you there tomorrow if you are interested in the PE route. But any other follow-up questions, just feel free to email me. It should be just at the top of the chat there.
Thanks, Joe. Emma, I think we might be back into your favorite topic again.
Yes, and it is my favorite topic, so thank you very much. Unfortunately, just on the slides there for psychology, again, I think the therapy crew were trying to bully me there. They copied their modules over onto mine.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
The sports psychology one, again, is your research skills. It focuses on your ability to use your psychology in your coaching. Individual differences and developmental psychology would be used in there too. So again, you'll see why I was kind of able to just jump in there on the phys ed one, because there is a lot of similarities in terms of where you see acquisition, where you see skill acquisition, where you may see skill acquisition difficulties. And that's where the likes of developmental psychology would come in. So you would learn about things like dyspraxia and dyslexia that they won't hinder all the time motor ability and motor behavior, but there will be different ways in which we can help the child acquire skills if there is difficulties there. You do learn a lot about personalities, which is the key to everything really. If we could understand personalities, we'd be away in a hack. But again, it's different personality types, and I suppose how they need different things from you, and they will need different things from managers. So again, the course equips you to deal with teams themselves, with managers that look after teams that are bringing you in to help with individual athletes and with individual athletes off teams that you're working with. So there's a lot around different personalities and what different personalities will need in terms of feedback, in terms of motivation, in terms of environment, whether that environment needs to be, extremely serious and extremely competitive, or where someone may need a more calm environment for them to excel fully. Your lovely research methods, as I said, nobody gets away from research. So they're 1, 2, 3, again, and it's just building that bridge. And I suppose don't let research put you off. I know some people think, I won't need that. Everybody will need it, and everybody will become a better therapist or a better psychologist or a better phys ed teacher from your skills in research. And so again, if someone comes to you in therapy and says, well, I don't know whether should I wear Under Armour or should I foam roll 2 hours before a game or 20 minutes before a game? If you're looking at research and you're looking at papers and you're able to distinguish what came from someone who wants to know the answer and what came from a company that makes foam rollers, you're going to be able to give your client the best and most educated answer to say, well, look, there's not much of a difference. Like only recently we learned pretty much scientifically, they're saying there is no benefits of a cool down. Yet we still see a lot of teams in non-professional settings doing a cool down. So again, it's allowing us to take the best of research and the best of our knowledge and apply that to athletes and apply it to teams. You do have work placement on the psychology as well. And you will have your contemporary issues. And again, the similarities with the phys ed crew. You will have a more in-depth psychology of the elite athlete. So that will go on to the likes of flow. It's like a majestical state they hope we can all get our athletes into. But it's basically, how can you get concentration? How can you get, I suppose, that second nature, that autonomous, I suppose, attitude and move to sport, as well as considering cognition, which is becoming a huge part of psychology. It's not just personality and motivation anymore. There is a lot moving towards how can you create an environment where your players or your athlete can make the best decision available to him or her in a split second. Thanks, Colin. I'm happy there.
And there's just a little bit on this next slide, just about the routes potentially to follow. So
so I suppose we're slightly unique. I don't know if I'd say unique in Ireland or it's a bit of a crux, but we don't have a lot of governing bodies we must register with to become sports psychologists in Ireland. So if you were obviously going into educational or child psychology, there's certain registrations. At the minute, it's not in. So you can do 5 years or you can do 5 months, and either individual can actually say they're a sports psychologist. So what they're doing is they're looking to, I suppose, close in on that. So we standardize the profession. So it is one of the unique ones in terms of it's a degree in sports psychology coaching. Whereas the route prior to this and the route outside ourselves in Portobello would be either sports science and a master's in sports psychology, and you kind of miss some of the fundamentals, or you can do psychology mainstream and then a master's in sports psychology, and you kind of miss some of the sciencey bits if you go mainstream psych and just a master's. So it's very, very unique, and it gives you both sides because we've such a good team in different areas and different pockets of sport. We've built content that's coming, like my background is mainstream psychology, so a lot of the motivational stuff, personality stuff would be built from mainstream psychology. And then the sports science stuff, like the skill act, would come from the sports science crew. So it's very, very unique in that sense. Again, it's that overall and that holistic view of the athlete, of therapy, of performance analysis, and of psychology.
Thanks, Emma. The remaining slides here, again, are really just a quick overview of our team. You've met Emma this evening. You've met me this evening. And then we also have, we've Cathal on board sports therapy. We have Barry on board for the PE and coaching. Fiona is involved in terms of all of the performance analysis and some of the physiology stuff as well. Anthony from the sports psych background. So you've got a good team in the sports, well, we've got a good team in the sports department, and all kind of practitioners are practicing in their fields. So bringing kind of a real life context to your classes. Because I can't see anything, I'm happy to reshare this. If someone's got a query that's on something that they spotted on a slide, I'll reshare it if necessary. But I'm going to stop sharing it so I can actually see what's going on the other screen. Sorry about that. So I'll drop back into this here. And Joe, have we had many queries that for Emma and I? As I couldn't see this chat, unfortunately, while I had the slides up on my screen. Do we want to just go to the top of the slide chat and work our way back through them?
No, we've just got one in there. How do you do the work placement parts when you're already working full time? That's someone interested in the blended learning.
Okay. Emma, I think you might be more familiar with the work placement modules than I am, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, no problem. So I suppose the first thing, Justin, is not to panic just yet, because your work placement doesn't come till the very end of second year on some courses, or the beginning of third year on some courses. And it really is, I suppose, in any of the sports courses, what you ideally want to opt for if you're trying for blended learning is evening work. Now, I know it sounds intense, but it is worth it when you can financially look after yourself and get your degree. But that's I suppose the beauty of all these courses is they're sports related, and sports is either weekends or evenings. So you do have that time to maybe take 2 or 3 hours on a Thursday evening for a longer period of time to build up your work placement hours, rather than think I have to go somewhere Monday to Friday and quit my job. You can build up your hours, say maybe on a Saturday morning with a team or athlete for 3 or 4 years, or one of the evenings where you might finish work earlier, if that makes sense. So it's not, these are your weeks, you must go and find a full-time job for those 5 weeks. You're very much left to your own accord to build up your hours when it best suits you.
The one thing I might just add to that in relation to blended learning, which, you know, we're finding increasing levels of interest in that mode of study, but just, I suppose, a note of caution, I suppose. Sometimes people misinterpret blended learning as part-time, and it kind of isn't. It's a full-time course of study delivered in a different format and at a different time. So you are going to have to take a deep breath if you go down that road and jump in, particularly if you're going to try work and study. It is fairly full on, but you know, it's been done. Lots of people have done it. I studied that way myself throughout my studies. So it's tough. It's hard going, but if it's something worthwhile and something you want to get into, then it's very very doable and very worthwhile.
Do you want me to grab that one, Joe? Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I just actually froze there. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Justin, yeah. So really, I think it's down to you and what your career aim is. So if it's to end up with PE teaching, it's definitely the BA in physical education you want to go after. The one psych coaching and phys ed is the fact that we try to encompass your ability to I suppose understand the basics of physical education too, in terms of using these apps where you can see someone's gait, or you can see someone's sprint technique, and how that would be off, or how it would be counterproductive for explosive effort and things like that. So I suppose physical education is always, you know, the first thing that pops into someone's head is PE and PE teaching, but physical education is kind of in a broader sense, how we understand the body and how we understand the body in terms of elite athleticism. So it's not for PE teaching, it's for, you know, sports science, it's for biomechanics, it's for physiology. So you have a background in that too. So again, you can go out there and work with teams and look at GPS reports and not think, oh, okay, this person is fatigued, because you have that background in a little bit of physiology and a little bit of biomechanics that you can say, actually, no, that would be a standard sort of output for that athlete in a given game. I hope that answers your, PE teaching strange. Yeah, exactly. It just goes straight in. People think PE, phys ed, and they just make that connection, and it's so hard to break. But again, because sports science is kind of, the term is being, I think, slightly washed out of the discipline. And for some reason, people are just trying to throw phys ed into its replacement. But it is, I think, if you look at, I suppose, the issues around, I suppose, obesity and coordination and how we're just not moving anymore. And in particular, the younger generations with tablets and phones and TVs and everything. We're trying to bring phys ed in terms of how do we educate ourselves and the population to be physically active. And on top of that, how do we get athletes to a level of elite athleticism?
And just to add, yeah, if you are interested in being a PE teacher long term, even from year one in that BA in physical education, you're doing key modules that you'll later need, and the teaching council will later request from you, because you need to cover so many specific modules and credits within your PE undergraduate. So if you are thinking about the PE teaching route, we would definitely recommend doing the BA in physical education from year one. But if it's more of the kind of sports psychology, like Emma said, then obviously that would be perfect for you. But yeah, that is a really common question and a really good question to bring up, actually. So thanks, Justin. A few more coming in there. Yeah, so yeah, Justin, just to clarify, definitely, if you're interested in being a PE teacher, it's the BA in physical education is the best way to go. And then following that up with postmasters in education in PE afterwards, typically being about 2 years in length for a course after the course with us. So looking at about 5 years of study in order to be a fully qualified PE teacher. And yes, the gym is located. Just behind the main building. I know that you, Emma and Colin, will probably be working in and out of it more than I would be. So you might be able to describe what kind of gym equipment and stuff we have in there. But it is located on campus.
I'm in terms of the modules I'm involved in. I've little involvement with the gym. I have to say, I've been in it. But
no matter. Stephen, the gym, as Joe said, is at the very back of the building, and it fits our purpose at the moment. Obviously, we're looking to expand in terms of lots of different buildings, and the gym would be one of them. The gym is ideal for what we need in terms of, it has areas there where we can do examples of skill acquisition, or you can do examples of a deadlift, or what's the right sprint off technique for explosive effort. It will give you everything you need educationally. If you're looking at it for a full workout for yourself, there's bits missing. So obviously we've the squat rack and the weight racks and things like that, but there's no cardio machines. But there is a gym up the road that I know offers a student discount, in particular to Portobello, or at least that was pre-COVID. I'm not sure if we're sitting the same way with COVID being the way it is, and bookings and schedules. But the gym is definitely everything you need for you to fully understand and get practicals for your degree. But if you're looking for a busting cardio session for yourself, it's not your protocol on that one, I'm afraid.
Yes, Irish, just to confirm that one. So yeah, it is a 3-year PE course with us. And then it would be, if you go down the Postmasters in Education in PE, so the UL route in Ireland, that's 2 years typically. And then the UK route has just more options for you. So on their delivery options can vary depending on the institution that you're interested in. And it can vary, between 1 to 2 years. So slightly less if you go down the PGC route, and that's the UK based one. And then Irish based one is the PME in PE, Postmasters in Education in PE. So yeah, looking at around 4 to 5 years in order to be a fully qualified PE teacher in Ireland. And again, please join us for tomorrow evening, where we'll have a really good discussion around PE teaching and the direction it's taking. So you can just register. The link is just above there, and you can ask as many questions as well if you wanted any more kind of specific PE knowledge.
Yeah, I'll jump in there, Joe, if that's okay. Yeah, Stephen, and I think we have to be, and I think in particular this year, I think somebody said to me this morning it jumped to 600 or over 600 points. So definitely we have a lot of students who their end goal was to be in physiotherapy, and they do the degree in sports therapy, and then they do a master's in physiotherapy, and that gets people along the chartered route. Again, I think, you know, it's kind of it gives you all the I suppose the foundation levels and the backing of everything. And Colin, maybe you should have jumped in here, but just to say that we have so many people who come to us and think, this is all I wanted to do was physiotherapy. And unfortunately, because we're in the rat race everyone appears to be in at the moment, this is definitely an ideal route. You know, you will need to work hard and get that good degree. So you'll be taken on to a master's in physiotherapy. And a lot of people do tend to go to the UK for that also. There's 18 months, 2 years, those type of masters. And then you can come back and be a chartered physiotherapist. So yes, a lot of people take that route. I'm sorry, Colin, if I jumped in there, or maybe you should have.
No, not at all. No, that's perfectly well explained. The only thing I was going to add to that was that I suppose it can seem really daunting at the beginning. We're talking here quite kind of blithely almost in terms of, you know, 3 years here and then another 2. And, you know, that can seem like 5 years of your life. I'm not sure, you know, what age you guys are on the call in terms of, you know, how long you're out of school or those kinds of things. But, you know, in the context of your life to date, that can seem like an awful long time. Sometimes when you're looking backwards, where I'm coming from at this point at my age, it doesn't seem a lot of time at all. And all you can really do is make your plan, decide on your goal, pursue it wholeheartedly, and take it in bite-sized chunks. Take each year as it comes, perform as well as you can in each year, and then go from there. And the time will pass. It may be not as, it may appear quite daunting, but it's something you're passionate about, something you're interested in. You'll definitely get it over the line.
Yes, Stephen, of course. Yeah, the staff are more than there for students. And if it got to a case where you were going for an interview for a master's, of course, you'd have plenty of us there to help you out.
I'll answer Justin's one there because I'm an old guy. I'm older than Justin. So I started all my studies late, and I had a very I hit a bump in the road career-wise and took a complete left turn and went off in a different direction entirely. So I trained as a physical therapist. Started training when I was 36 or 37, something like that. Graduated and opened my own practice and got into kind of private practice that way as a physical therapist. And then subsequently decided to tack on something in the sports psychology area after it. So I went back to study in 2015 and did a master's in Waterford IT. So, and I did all that with blended learning. So I worked and studied at the same time. Did I feel like I was starting it a bit late? Absolutely. And it was a classic kind of watershed moment, wondering if I had, why did I not know years earlier what I knew when I was older? So yeah, a little bit late to the game, but yeah, I wouldn't worry. If it's something you want to do, go for it. You know, people are going to be, none of us, if you're involved in kind of the private sector, nobody's going to be retiring at 65. So if you think where you're 40 now, so 25 years ago you were 15. So in 25 years time, you'd be 65, you'll still be working. There's plenty of time left.
But you'll be doing exactly what you love doing, hopefully.
Exactly.
So no, never too late. We have a lot of mature learners actually on our blended options. So we would have a lot of mature learners, and 40 is certainly not old at all. We'd be delighted to have you on the courses with us. And we actually have slightly different entry requirements if you're a mature learner. So we actually consider mature learners over the age of 21. So I think we're all mature learners in this from the staff side of things. So yeah, in terms of entry requirements, what we would be looking for is some anatomy and physiology background. Whether you've done any personal training qualifications, you typically would cover anatomy and physiology within that. So if you've done any qualifications like that, we can use that. Or if you are missing that anatomy and physiology or biology background, we do have an anatomy and physiology course that we could enroll you on prior to then doing the BSc or the BA with us, if you are missing that element. And then we'd ask for a CV as well, and then also completing the interview as well. So you can just follow that link and book an interview if you did want to go to the next step. Okay. That's great, Justin. Yeah, it definitely can be done.
Do you want to take that for full-time? Is that Stephen? Is that full? Oh, full-time. Yes, it is full-time. Do you want to take that one, Emma, for Stephen?
Yeah, cheers. So full-time looks at 3 to 3.5 days a week. It's usually no more than that. And I suppose we do, because we're not your, 400 or 500 students in a course. We do definitely try and level the timetable, so you're not in for 2 hours on a Tuesday and then in for 1 hour on a Wednesday. We do try and keep it that, you've your full days and they're allocated, but you're definitely looking from 2 to 3.5 days. Now, obviously, as you progress into the end of second year, early third year, some of those weekly hours will be allocated to work placement. If you're on the full time, blended, it can be done in the evening. But you do have that, I suppose, novelty with sport, that you can get your work placement done in the evenings and at the weekends, because that's when we're all out playing sport. But you're looking at about, I'd say if you've about 3.5 days for your week, that would be sort of the ballpark of where we're at. Sorry, and Stephen, I probably just should have said there, obviously, it's like I've forgotten COVID. It's all gone out of my head now. It's like a bad dream I've woken up from. We're obviously doing a hybrid model ourselves this year, because I think we all learned that it can be done from home. So some of your theory modules will actually be online, and then you'll be in the college for practicals. So I suppose if you're traveling up, that will save you a good bit of grace, that you'll be traveling up more so for the practicals, and we're going to jump online for some of the theory. You'll be predominantly based on site doing your practicals, depending on the course, but we're taking the hit on 1 or 2 theory modules that we can deliver from home.
Yeah, exactly the same approach on the blended. That it's kind of Justin's question has kind of come in here as well, very opportunely. So yeah, we're still kind of in coming out of COVID mode, I suppose. So we're looking at an approach where modules and elements of modules that really need to be done in person, so practical stuff, laboratory type stuff and so on, will still be done in-house. But we're also trying to minimize travel time and stuff for people in some respects, and taking some theory elements and theory modules and delivering them online. We're very aware as well, though, that there is a value to an opportunity to meet face-to-face. So we want to try and create that opportunity even around some of those practical sessions, because as students, you operate as very much as a support network for each other. And because sometimes at home, online, you can feel like you're the only person in the world dealing with the challenges of your course. So we're adopting a bit of a hybrid approach for now, but hopeful, obviously, to whenever we can, or when we think it's safe or sensible, to try and get back to more full-time in-person type stuff.
Stephen, just on the work placement there, it's not a yes and it's not a no. So students are obviously encouraged to obtain their own work placement for 2 reasons: just that bit of independence, but it allows you to network and find your feet and find people that you'd ideally like to work for or work with in the future. But if you're really struggling to find work placement, as I said, we're all out. Actually, we're practitioners as well as lecturers, so there is avenues. We always tell students not to panic if they're struggling to find work placement, because we will get it for them per se. But you have to come to us and say, I've tried here and I've tried there and I've tried here. And it's not go out and find it yourself. You're on your own. But again, it's the value of networking, and it's the value of reaching out to people and saying, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I could offer you on my work placement. It is that skill of networking. You look at some universities in the UK at the minute, and some of their master courses, even some of their undergrads, have a module in networking, which, you know, teaches you how to put out a good tweet to get traction. So we're not lying when we say it is your ability to network around the people in your area and in your discipline. And Ireland is small, that you really benefit from networking. So look, worst case scenario, of course, we will help you get work placement, but we do encourage people to fly the nest basically and network and try and get it themselves. Hi Iris. No, so you can do your work placement overseas. Again, once you can provide the documentation to, you know, not prove, but prove that you are engaging in the allocated hours for work placement. So it's not a block. Again, in particular with the blended learning, we don't like to block time off or things off because people have work and kids and everything else. So it's when you find the hours, you can fill your work placement hours, and they can be done overseas if you're traveling, once the university gets the documentation back that the work placement hours have been completed. Sorry, Iris, is the work placement, is it, or? Yeah. So there will be work placement for both blended and full-time, and it works off. Oh, yes, your question. Sorry, Iris. Yeah. Yes. So definitely, yeah. If you wanted to get some work placement hours, say on Easter breaks or reading weeks, if you were traveling or whatever, that's fine. Again, whether it's blended or full-time, really the key is to provide the university with the documentation that the work hours have been completed. Yes. But it's not in a block, even on the full-time.
Stephen, yeah, just in relation to the anatomy and stuff, yeah, all the modules have recommended reading lists and so on, and we've tended, I suppose, in recent years to direct people more and more to ebooks and online textbooks rather than the hard copy. I'm kind of a bit old school. I still have quite a lot of books knocking around that I kind of like to dip into from time to time. But in terms of learning anatomy, yes, there will be a recommended textbook on the module. Which one it is off the top of my head now, I'm stuck. But there are masses and masses of online resources as well in relation to learning anatomy, but there will be recommended textbooks as well.
So yeah, in terms of next steps, if any of you are interested in a place, if you're a Leaving Cert student and you've got your results, or you've even had your results maybe from 2020 or 2019, you can send me a copy of your Leaving Cert results, and you can just do that via email, a clear photo, a scan, or whatever suits you can send through to my email address, and that will kind of start the application process. And then again, for any mature learners over the age of 21, a CV and a copy. If you've got any anatomy and physiology background or any certificates that you think would kind of meet our entry requirements for the anatomy and physiology or biology element, then send them in to me and I can have a look at them just to see, and then I can advise you further, because everyone is very different. Entry requirements can be slightly different for everyone. So send them in to me and then I can advise you much further. And we take everyone on a case-by-case basis as well. So we always like to chat to you on the phone and just make sure that we're putting you on the right course as well. So with your career prospects, what you would like to do, and particularly with that physical education and possibly going down either the fact that we have PE in the sports psychology route. That's what you just want to make sure that we're putting you on the right course for what you want to do later on in life, and just making sure that we're advising you as best as possible. So yeah, I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you apply for 2021 or 2022. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Iris, if you know that you're going to get your results in February, you can certainly start the application process. We will probably have our 2022 courses online. It's typically around November, December. As soon as the October 2021 courses have started, we will then start to open registrations then for 2022. So yeah, absolutely, you can start that process as soon as it appears on the website, and we can certainly get that process started.
Stephen, the average class size on the therapy for full-time would be anywhere from 45 to 65. That would be where we average at the moment. Now, obviously, you know, unfortunately, with the way things went this year, in particular with the CAO, that could increase. I can't imagine it increasing too much. But you're looking, the 40 to 60 mark would be what we would have.
Very welcome, Iris. Anybody else want to jump in with anything? Any thoughts going around in your head that you'd like to ask about? We're happy to field anything you like, or answer anything you like, or endeavour to answer anything you like.
We'll hang around for a few more minutes, but just wanted to say thank you very much to everyone for joining us this evening. It's been lovely having you, and hopefully see some of you in tomorrow evening's PE teaching evening as well. It'd be great to see you.
Will I? Yeah, Iris. So they are our educational partners, our university partner. So your degree will come from London Metropolitan University, and we are, I suppose, a sister of them, where it's delivered by us and through us. So it's not the UK curriculum you get, it's the Irish curriculum, and it's localized. But your degree, your actual piece of paper at the end, will come from London Metropolitan University. The bachelor's degree in PE is the John Moores Liverpool University, and we work off the same relationship there, where your degree will come from John Moores Liverpool University, but it will be taught through us and with us by our staff.
I'll take that one if you want, from Stephen. Yeah, I presume you're referring to the sports therapy there. So yes, I mean it's important to get hands-on ASAP. So yeah. No, that's fine, Stephen. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, you definitely be hands-on from pretty much from day one. Obviously, there are, because of the current COVID scenario, and because we're only kind of coming out of that, hopefully coming out of that, even in some of we've tried to take some of the elements that of the theory that underpin the actual hands-on physical practice, tried to take some of that out and deliver that maybe in an online environment. But obviously there's a necessity to get you guys hands-on ASAP, get you comfortable putting your hands on bodies and understanding the anatomy, understanding both the function and the dysfunction. So yeah, that happens from the beginning. It's not left till the end. I'll take that one as well. This is the $6 million question. I suppose on the side of football pitches and stuff up and down the country, anybody who's looking after the kind of physical well-being of the athletes, particularly from an injury perspective, tends to acquire that generic title of physio. There's a whole different variety of types of hands-on therapy. There's athletic trainers who I think are trained on a DCU or at loan. I can't remember which now. There's obviously chartered physiotherapists coming out of UCD or Trinity, sports therapists from ourselves, and there's a couple of other different flavors and varieties. Mostly you'll find, the athletes themselves, the players will say, I went to the physio. They tend not to differentiate that much. There can be the occasional bun fight between the different varieties and the different types of qualifications and so on. And you'll hear all sorts of wild claims about who's better than who. But from the player's perspective, qualified sports therapists coming off our course do a very good job pitch side, and even in terms of just managing the player's well-being. Yeah, but yeah, physio tends to be just kind of a generic term that doesn't identify necessarily the exact qualification that the person doing that job holds or carries out.
I'll take that if that's okay. Thanks, Iris. Yeah, Stephen, it will depend really on the module. A lot of your sports therapy modules are practicals, anatomy and physiology exams. And then you also have a research module, which will be more written elements. So there will be, I suppose, research methodologies. There will be a little bit of written pieces. There will be a little bit of statistics. So I think therapy have the least amount of written assignments in comparison to more theory-based degrees, because you have the practical elements. So your main prerogative at home would be to take each module by each module. So it's not as if I'm all hands-on, I'm all on practical, I'll never have an essay. You will have bits of written work for research modules. You have a lit review in second year, but it's reviewing the literature maybe for tendons machine or something that's very much related to therapy. And you'll have your thesis. So it's a nice balance. Off the cuff, I'd say it's about 60% practical work, 40% written work. It could even be 70-30 to be fair, because you just have one research module for the 3 years and that lit review. So I suppose, you know, even sometimes people coming fresh out of secondary school think, oh, essays. It's lit reviews, analysis, thesis, peer reviewed. It's a change. But it's a change we you know, I'm not being condescending, but hold your hand through. The writing that's required at Leaving Cert is not what was required at university, and we'll be able to guide you through that. But it's a nice mix. So it's not all written, it's not all practical. Again, it's giving you the best of everything. So you can pick up a research paper and say, oh, okay, do you know what? This foam rolling time or whatever is the most efficient. But also, you know, can you know bones and structures and ligaments from the likes of an exam? Does anyone else have any other questions, or are we happy enough? No bother, Stephen. Thanks a million.
You can see the number of attendees in the top corner. I'm not sure if everybody gets to see that. I don't know, but it's scrolling down a little bit. I know, obviously, Justin went off to watch the match, and Iris is on as well. So we'll see.
They're dead right. They're dead right.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Life is too short for being online for too long.
Yeah. Oh, well, we can't wait to meet you, Stephen. So
yeah, looking forward to that.
Perfect. I think that's maybe all the questions then. And then, yeah, any follow-up questions, you always got my email address as well. But yeah, massive thank you from us all just for joining us this evening. If you want any recordings or anything afterwards, just let me know and I can send that on. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully see you in October. Yeah, if anyone is interested in a recording, just send me an email on joe.shaw@portobelloinstitute.com. That way I'll have your email address and then I can send you back a recording. So yeah, just email me. I'll put my right one in there. I just realized.
You just misspelled it there.
Yeah.
Try again.
I'm so used to typing it so fast. There we go. That's the right one there.
Thanks, Fergal. Very welcome.
Cheers, Fergal. Thanks a million.